What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 9 of the A-Tier Analyst Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Aiden, also known to some as Dub Sports. I'm here today with Tiernan. Tiernan, how you doing? How's your weekend going? We got a Sunday recording today.
Yeah, pretty terrible weather out here right now, not gonna lie. I don't know about Ohio, but it's been a little
Ohio's
rainy
always
all
rainy
week.
and gray, yep.
Yep, it's been all week, so
Yeah,
good
we got a
episode
Sunday
here though.
recording here today, so same day we post, we're recording, and for this week we're doing something a little bit different with this season unwinding. We're not going to be talking about any news. This episode will strictly be for us to give our 2025 NBA awards out. We're pretty much at the end of the season, not to say these games don't matter. A lot of teams are fighting for a playoff spot and the tankathon's going on, whatever. There's still a lot going on, but we're in a place where I feel like we can give these awards, don't you think?
Yeah, right now I think the awards for the most part are kind of locked in, whereas
Mm-hmm.
team positions not. I think these awards have been locked in for I would like to say some time now, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the most part, a lot of these predictions I could have made a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
Um, but again, these awards, there's no set criteria written on a piece of paper. So people's opinions can change a lot, and it just comes down to what you value. So I'm interested to see how similar, how different ours are. Because again, as we do these lists, we did not talk about this before. Aside from I think MVP, we talked about that a little bit, but other than that, we did not talk about any of these. So we're gonna start with the MVP since we already did talk about that. Why don't you do the honors here and let the people know who our MVP pick is? Because I'm sure this is nice for you to say.
the 2025 NBA MVP Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of minus 5,000 right now, I think, locked in to win it. I would say I've had him kind of locked in for a couple weeks now, but up until that point, it was a real race.
Yeah.
Statistical dominance from Jokic, kind of one of
Mm-hmm.
the best statistical seasons we're probably ever going to see.
Yeah, and I mean minus 5,000. I have a really hard time sitting here saying that's cool or I think it's that big of a gap. Jokic is having arguably one of the best individual seasons ever. I think what really swings that in Shea's favor is just the success of the Thunder as a team. And that's not to discredit Shea, like he's not, a huge part or the reason for that. But I don't want to ignore the fact that Jokic individually has had probably one of the most impressive seasons I've been alive for, if not the most impressive.
Yeah, I'd say the same. Like statistical wise, everything impressive. Jokic is playing out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
They're the 4 seed right now. I think that just being in the battle they're in seeding wise is a big notch on why he probably doesn't win this. I think
Yeah.
we've seen one player outside a top 4 seed win it in the last 15 years, and that was Russ.
Mm-hmm.
And I think outside of that, Jokic was the next lowest as a 4 seed.
Yeah, and it's not, when I look at the Nuggets, it is a good roster. Obviously, this almost identically the same roster, plus or minus a few guys, won a championship, just 2 years ago. So it is a good team. Jokic, as of recording right now, putting up 30, 13, and 10 a game. Again, I'm saying 30, 13, and 10 as a center. He is top 10, top 5 in almost every statistical category for an individual. And it's impressive, but obviously with Shea, like I said, it comes down to the fact that he's leading one of the best teams ever that has been missing their second and third option for good chunks of the season. It hasn't disrupted it. A lot of other stars, I think they get that excuse, oh, so-and-so's hurt, but Shea, business as usual.
Yeah, I don't know why I see everybody on social media saying like this Thunder team would be great without Shea.
Dude, that has
Uh,
been on our
I
TikTok. I've been
don't know
seeing that a lot.
why that keeps like why that's such a common thought. They were missing Chet for 50 games.
Mm-hmm.
J Dub's been on and off recently with injury, and he missed some games early on. They missed Hartenstein for 20 games early in the season.
Yeah.
Like outside of J Dub, Chet, and Shea too, it's mostly role players where you don't have someone to take over as that number one option.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because that was a little bit of a topic on our TikTok over this last week, with people saying that you take Shea off the Thunder team, it's still a playoff team. I don't. The West is so tough. We've been talking about this for weeks on the podcast. You go down to the 8, 9 seed; those are good basketball teams with really good guys leading them. You take Shea out of the equation, who even is the first option? Is it J Dub? Is it Chet? I don't know what that looks like on this team.
I I just think his gravity is kind of being undervalued by a
Exactly.
lot of people. Like being able to get to the rim so easily as a guard, where he puts that pressure on everybody to collapse, and he's
Right.
the reason these role players are getting open. And even on early on in the season, I brought it up to you how every role player on the Thunder was performing below average in terms of their last year shooting splits and everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they're playing above what they have in the past. They're right on what they've done.
Yeah, and it's just a testament to what his individual play leads to for his teammates. And like you said, open shots. If he's gonna get to the rim every time, there's not one player in this league that can stop him 1-on-1. You have to help. Like you literally have to help if he wants to score. So that's obviously someone's gonna be open, and I think that helps with this Thunder team. So for all those reasons, I think he gets his first MVP. I don't know when we're gonna get another American-born MVP. The international guys are dominating this as of the last 5, 6 years.
Yeah, I don't even know who the next guy might be, especially with Wemby and Luca gonna
Mm-hmm.
contest it. I really don't see who the next American-born MVP could even
It's probably
possibly be.
Tatum, but I don't know when Tatum will be in the situation where his numbers allow for that to happen.
No, like I think even then, the only guy numbers-wise American-born here going forward, like volume, everything would be Cade to have numbers, but I don't think Cade's gonna have MVP case.
No, I think Ant would be the next name that comes to mind for me.
Like I just
Maybe Paolo if he's able to lead this team to some real winning.
like I think they would need to do a lot more. Like Ant isn't as good in other aspects of the game where he would probably have to average 35 a game, whereas Shea
Yeah.
right now is getting away with 33 a game as
Mm-hmm.
a guard and getting it. It's just for a guard to do it. All these American guys are guards too that we basically outside of Tatum, we don't have much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough.
I do want to say this before we move on from MVP. Obviously, you said what is Shea minus 5,000.
Yeah,
Okay, say Jokic were to win it for whatever reason they were to announce that Jokic took it home. I personally, I know you're not going to agree with this. I wouldn't be up in arms about it. I would be surprised. And again, I'm picking SGA as my MVP, but to act like Jokic isn't an MVP or playing any other year, if Shea were to not exist, be a clear cut MVP almost any other year, that's kind of ridiculous for people to sit here and say Jokic doesn't do it. I saw a comment on TikTok saying Jokic doesn't lead his team to wins, but Shea does. Did
yeah.
Jokic not win
Those
a
comments were
championship?
insane. I don't. The
Did he
comments
not
on the
just
TikToks.
win a championship? What? And again, not to discredit Shea, they could go to the playoffs and lose in the first round right now. It could happen. Jokic proved it and won a whole championship with his team, and somehow we've reached a place where to discredit him and build up SGA's MVP case, that's the narrative people are spinning. Jokic isn't playing winning basketball or leading his team.
Yeah, the narratives on both ends are just really odd. Instead of like just respecting both as the MVP they probably deserve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I honestly, if Jokic gets it, I won't be surprised. I won't. I wouldn't be happy in terms of being a Thunder fan and thinking Shea should get it, but like I wouldn't be surprised. I think he probably should.
Yeah.
He has a really good case. Both of them do. If they were to go tie the voting, split MVP, I could see that happening too. But the minus 5,000 implies that the books nearly think Shea is like almost unanimous level, which I don't know if that's where it's at. I
Yeah,
think
that
the
throws
team
me off.
success might really be pulling that up though, because the voters do really prefer team success a
It's
lot.
It's that in defense to me. I that
Yeah,
was another thing I saw. Like a lot of people were saying, you guys act like Jokic doesn't play defense. That's probably what it is to me. But I think Jokic is a better defender than people give him credit for too. I think there's just this weird narrative that he's like fat and slow and plays no defense. Like
yeah.
he's
I don't
something.
know. The comments on TikTok throw me off because Jokic isn't like the worst defender like people act like. But then people also bring up like the steals number, and we've seen bad defenders have high steals often.
Steph Curry.
Like it's not. I don't think it's a numbers thing when it comes to defense, where you could just look at steals per game. Like
No.
you have to look deeper into that.
Yeah,
But
but
he's not as bad as people act like. They act like he's the worst rim defender ever.
yeah, I mean, that's why I said he's not like Karl Anthony Towns level bad on defense,
Yeah,
and that's a guy who's not even near as capable as Jokic, and is still one of the best centers in the NBA. It just shows Jokic's offensive skill. Like, I think the only thing you could say is defense, because he does a lot more than Shea on offense, and he scores more efficiently. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I would assume more or just as efficiently than Shea. They're both super efficient, so it's not like one's bad if it's, there's a swing minus a few field goal percentage, whatever.
yeah. No, it's just I don't know. I'm excited to see another guard win it. Honestly,
It's been a
um,
while, yeah.
it's
It's been some
rare
time.
for
What was
guards to
Harden the
win
last
it.
one?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like we've seen that guards have to have insane seasons to get away with this award.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to see a guard win it, especially with today's league where length and size is just all that matters to a certain extent. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying Shea's a small guard either. Shea's 6'5", 6'6",
Yeah, big body.
but
He got that post without any
he,
hesitation.
he still runs the one compared to what other players his size were doing in years past.
Yeah, so that's pretty much that. We have SGA's MVP. He's had one of the best seasons. It's been so much fun to watch. I don't know how you could turn this guy on and be like, oh, he's foul baiting. Like, I'm not having fun watching this. If you're turning on a Thunder game, you're not enjoying it, you don't like basketball. That's the only conclusion I have for you. You cannot watch this guy ISO, get in the post, got good hands on defense, snatch the ball back and take a jump shot in the blink of an eye and be like, foul baiter. That's weird to me. So
Significant leader in drives per game, leads the league in free throw attempts. I wonder why.
if that's you, I'm sorry. I mean, the rest of us are going to enjoy it, but SGA's had a phenomenal season. He's our MVP. We can move on to the next one here. Defensive Player of the Year. Do you have the odds for that one? Because I think this is
I
rare.
don't have them like live, but I know I looked earlier. Draymond was like minus 450.
And that's insane to me. And we talked about this a little bit last week. I think that came from his campaigning on his own end. That's really what spun this around. And suddenly he was like the heavy favorite out of nowhere on a Warriors team that, obviously with Jimmy, they've turned around and they've looked a lot better. But for the first chunk of the season was really struggling. So who do you have for Defensive Player of the Year? Because I'm not sure if we had the same guy, but based on past conversations, I assume we might.
I have this. I kind of found myself in a little bit of a. I was considering some guys for this. Um, I did end up going with Mobley, but there definitely was consideration, and Draymond was not a name in that consideration. Also, so him being the heavy on favorite, I just think is crazy. But Mobley is my deep boy for the season.
I also have Mobley, which I kind of figured we did talk about that a little bit. He's such a big part of this Cavs defense with a team that has two guards that really need a good line behind them, where they can just trust I'm going to funnel this guy into Mobley and JA and it's no problem. That's huge. That's the reason that they're the first team in the East. They wouldn't be able to get away with having such a weak defensive duo in their guard spots if they didn't have guys like Mobley and JA. What separates Mobley from JA is he can get on the perimeter if he needs to, and that's what did it for me. The best defender on one of the best teams, and that is versatile in the fact that you can trust him to do whatever. Depoy. What was your case?
Yeah, no, same thing. I mean, best defender on a great team has done it all season long versus where some other guys here haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Even the guys I had him in consideration with at the time, I was looking between him, Jaren. Jaren, I feel like did a lot and is kind of being forgotten about now out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mobley just does so much for the Cavs, whereas I wanted to throw a guy in the Thunder on the mix, but they have so many guys that do a lot on defense where I don't think you could give it to one.
Yeah. Well, if I had to, I think I know who I would give it to for sure. I'd give it to
No,
Dort if I had to.
I'd give it to Dort if I had to, but I think they have three guys who could be all defensive team, whereas you have J Dub. Shea probably gets it this year just based on his influx of stats on the defensive end,
Hmm.
which, like we said, shouldn't matter too much, but he's also been a great defender.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Dort, J Dub, like I think they have too many guys, and Mobley protects his guards,
yeah,
and I think that's a huge part with those two.
it's
You need
huge, man.
someone there.
You need it, and it's not like Donovan and DG are just like, okay defenders. They're not good defenders, and
And
that's
they're
what worries.
undersized. Like they're
Yeah,
not. It's not
and
even
that's
like they
what.
put up a fight really.
And when the playoffs come, like that's gonna be the first thing. If I'm playing the Cavs, that's the first thing. How can we target these guys every possession on defense? How can we take them out of the play and make it so that those guys can't help them? And
Yeah,
I expect we see that very early on. Any good coach, that's exactly what they're gonna do. But like I said, having Mobley, they know that they'll be okay. He can get to where he needs to get. He can recover. Great length, great size. He's quick too for his size. I mean, that's why I said when we did our top 10 to 20, 30, like a baby Giannis. He can move for his size. So Mobley was the defensive player of the year. Who were some guys you were considering? I think, two main guys I was considering, but I'd like to hear your
I
next.
really thought this should. If this was going to be a two-man race coming down the season like it apparently is, I didn't think it would be Draymond. I thought it'd be Mobley and Jaren going for it. And then Dyson and probably Dort are on like a different level below
Yeah,
them. I think it's
yeah.
hard to win it as a guard. Like we've only seen Marcus Smart win it as a guard, really.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I thought the two-man race was going to be between Mobley and Jaren for sure, and I still think that's what it should be right now, if anything.
It should. We said that in the one episode where when Wemby got ruled out, it was kind of Jaren's to lose a little bit. But we already talked about what it came down to for Mobley. I think what separates him from Jared to me is just one, the team success, and two, I feel like he has a harder job that he's done a better job executing and helping them win games and being such an anchor in their defense. That's what separated. And then Dyson, like it's hard to give a guy that's what did he pass the most steals in a season like 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and we've got like
Yeah,
10 games left. Like that's insane.
yeah, no, it's I. There's so many good defenders here, and that's why I think I said the last episode. I don't think Draymond even slips on the first team. I think this is all the odds on this one. I'm not really falling into. I think this is kind of some smoke and mirrors going on here. If like the book's kind of hedging and kind of roping people into stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't. I don't even think he has a case. I think he's a borderline case for first team with some of these other names here. I don't think. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard.
and it's gonna be really hard to make up that all defense first team because, like you said, there's a lot of guys that have played really good defense this year, and I think it's a little bit refreshing. I feel like this is the first year in a couple of years where I wasn't super worked up about fouls as often as I have been in the past. I felt like we're slowly, very slowly, moving back to that brand of basketball where they let some physicality go and guys are buckling down on defense. I felt that a little bit more this year. I don't know about you, but I
Yeah,
think
I
there's
think
been a lot more good defenders.
they need to just do it consistently. That's really like as long as that's what they allow, you have to allow it throughout every game. At that point, like we can't be bouncing game to game, which we see sometimes in the playoffs where some refs let it get a little bit more physical, and then others are ticky tacky with calls, and especially in a 7 game series, if you have refs switching between games. Or one teams think they're playing physical and then they do it, and then there's 40 free throws the next game. It's
Yeah,
just
I remember last year. I don't remember which one it was. It was the first playoff series I was watching. It was such a noticeably different whistle going on. They were letting everything go to the point where, like, a couple possessions in, I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, this is not the regular season." So I hope to see something like that this year. But like you said, consistently.
would like to point out last year's all defensive team. I don't think any of these guys make. They haven't even really been in conversation. Bam, AD because of games played.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy, Herb Jones because of games played, and Wemby because of games played. Were the first team last year, but none of them are even in the going to
That's a
be
pretty good
first team
point.
this year. And then the second team is Caruso, who I think might slip on the second team this year again.
He will. He will. Yeah.
Drew Holiday, Jaden McDaniels, Suggs, and Derek White, who are also guys that I can't even guarantee make the team. Like we might have a full almost reset of teams here.
Yeah, and like I said, it was noticeable. Like I feel like I felt it this year. Like they're like, man, there's a lot of guys that are playing really good defense.
Yeah,
Where it was special to have a guy like McDaniel's or Bam, but it seems like guys are maybe taking it a little more seriously at this point. I don't know, but it's nice to see. That's all I do know. Um,
yeah.
so that settles our defensive player of the year. That is really interesting. I feel like we should have made some all defense teams, but
It
maybe
just
we
would
can
have
get.
been too hard of a battle, I think.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. Like, I wonder how often that's happened in NBA history, or what the most amount of like differential between all NBA defense teams year over year is. I'll look into that later. Maybe we'll post that later. But anyway, let's move on to the next award here. Want to do six man of the year?
Yeah, this one I think is kind of easy.
This one is probably a lock for Peyton Pritchard
Yeah,
to go Rocky with.
not really a fan of him either, but he's
No.
really kind of jumped into this role as their sixth man on the
Mm-hmm.
top two team in the East, the third best team in basketball.
Yep.
He's had a great season. I didn't think he was ever going to be this good. I thought he would be a bench rider in the NBA. I'm
Mm-hmm.
honestly impressed with his, like, he's probably top 3 3-point shooter in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
And
And
that's huge for them.
especially, yeah, just the fact that obviously Boston's known, or this new Boston era, this championship Boston team has been known for their 3-point shooting. To have a guy on the bench coming behind five All Stars coming into the game that is, again, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. I mean, how special is that? What does that do for you come playoffs, or even throughout the regular season, knowing you have that at all times in the tuck behind five elite 3-point shooters starting?
Yeah, a pure spark plug off the bench there. And
Mm-hmm.
another undersized guy, but I think effort wise, he gives more because of his role than a lot of other guys do. Where like teams will pick on him, but it's not going to be as bad as some other undersized guys in the league.
Yeah, well, I mean, this guy's literally as tall as me, and
So,
he's doing this in the NBA. One thing for Peyton Pritchard that I do want to point out is I see a lot of people, obviously it's natural to wonder, what would he look like in a different situation or in a different role. So say we were to just start Peyton Pritchard on, not a bad team, but maybe one of these playing teams or something for a whole season. I don't think that in that situation he thrives as well as he is in this six-man role. I think he is like a Lou Will. Just leave him there. Let him rock out off the bench for whatever team it is.
yeah, I think I don't know. It is easy to wonder, but I think a lot of guys have roles that they fit into,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they're going to be best. And I think the Celtics have a lot of guys like that where they're in their best role right now. Like I
Yeah,
think a guy like him, Derek White, they're in their best roles in this situation right now, and it's just perfect for their career.
yeah,
Whereas if he goes first option somewhere else, he's seeing way different looks. There's not as much help around him, most likely. It's just way different.
yeah. That was like you just saying that was another thing on the TikTok this week. Someone saying it was objectively true if you were to give any NBA player the chance to be a first option and run plays for them, they'd average 20 for a whole season. Objectively was the word used to start that sentence,
Yeah, I
and
don't.
that was insane to me. There's such a small percentage of guys. We could talk about that forever, but you cannot do that for any guys. Even guys that are, like I said, 10 to 12 point per game scores. A lot of those guys are a result of someone else on their team being really good or having really good guys around them where they just have to hit their threes or hit their backdoor cuts. And that's how they get their points every game. They're not going to go create. But a lot of interesting stuff. So if you aren't following our TikTok, go over there because we've been posting a lot more. And a lot of these small things that we don't talk about in the episodes, they'll be on the TikTok. So make
Yep.
sure you catch that. Um, so that covers six man of the year. Why don't you move us on to the next one?
Next, I say we hop to rookie of the year. Let's get this out of the way. I think your answer, you have a lock. I think in my head, I had way more of a consideration for this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted it to be more of a race, and it was tough. Who did you end up rolling with here? I think everyone knows.
Yeah, I roll with Stephon Castle. Um, if if you look at my preseason predictions, this was the only one I got correct, seemingly so far. Stephon Castle, like I said, I've talked about him on this show plenty of times. That's who I wanted the Hornets to draft because I believe so much in him. He's an insane athlete that is willing to play both sides of the ball and pass, but he can score if he needs to. That's the perfect point guard. Um, and I think having Wemby out and then having D Fox out, obviously not good for the team. I think they could have really done something if those guys were healthy. But for him individually to let him kind of just do his thing for almost half the season, really, that's huge. So big part of that Spurs team going forward. You say it's not a lock. There are some other good rookies, but what were you considering? Who did you ultimately decide? Because this could be.
I wanted it to be, I, in my head, wanted it to be more of a race than it probably is going to end up being.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Sarr, Ricochet, and Castle have all given kind of the same games down the stretch here where they have some good games and then some really bad games.
Mm-hmm.
I think Castle separated himself because he's kind of had a chance to have more good games than these guys.
Yeah, and more of a successful team, at least for that opening chunk when he started to get a roll. They were kind of catching that momentum a little bit. I
Yeah.
think that helped.
So I think his defense brings a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I just think a lot of rookies started heating up too late or settling in late. This rookie
Mm-hmm.
class I still don't think is great, but
No, it is
I
terrible.
think they've
It's
really
not.
shown like exactly what they're going to be as a solid role player draft, and that's kind of what they're showing down the stretch here. Is they got guys who are going to be able to fit into roles,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's definitely panned out a little bit better than I thought they were gonna. So I wanted to give it to Ricochet, but I don't think he's had some impressive games. He dropped 35 on 6 made threes or whatever the other day. And
Yeah.
then he followed it up with a stinker as we gave
Mm-hmm.
him the stinker that next day,
Yeah.
I'm pretty
I
sure.
think he
So,
was the first person to get a performance and a stinker.
so yeah, no, tough. But Castle did steal the rookie of the year. I think he's minus 1,500 right now on the books.
Yep.
They think it's pretty locked in. I like this award. I feel like this year it's not as much as a popularity contest as usual. I have hated the award for that case for a while because it's usually just most popular rookie gets it.
Like LaMelo Ball winning it or no? And be
Uh,
careful here.
he's an example of it getting it over Ant that season. Ant was definitely more deserving of a rookie, but he's not the only case. There's a lot
Mm.
where it's kind of been like that guy probably shouldn't have won. And
Yeah, that is what it is, and it became like exhausting almost, where it was like, is this really? There's another one of these awards I think is in a place right now where it's like, man, I
yeah,
hate this
well,
award. Um, so we'll talk about that when we get there. But both of us end up picking Castle. Before this season, now that we've done MVP and Depoy, I had picked Giannis was my prediction like before game one. I picked Giannis, and then Depoy I had Wemby, which probably would have been right had he not got hurt, which not impressive. Obviously, it would have been Wemby, but I got one right. So let's move on to the next one here. Um, Want to do coach or do you want to do? I think we should do coach because the last one's going to be the longest conversation. I
yeah,
think.
yeah, we can do coach. I mean, this one obvious pick for me. I'm gonna go Dejanalt here.
Yep, I picked the same one, and
I he's not even like list. He's plus 1,000. He's above plus 1,000 on the books right now. I
mm-hmm,
think kind of under like other awards are factoring in team success, whereas this one isn't for some
mm-hmm.
reason, which is odd as it's the coach award. I think JB's had a great season. Um, a lot of coaches have had good seasons. I just think Dejanalt having a historic team, like there has to be some reward for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of names. I've seen Kenny. I've seen Missoula. I mean, Coach of the Year is one of the awards where I feel the least attached to or emotional about. Like, there's a lot of guys that are really good coaches for different reasons. Obviously, it's really hard. Like I said when we talked about the firing of Taylor Jenkins, I think coaches have the hardest scorecard, and that applies right here for Coach of the Year. Um,
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be mad if a lot of other people won it. I would not at all. If you were to give it to Missoula, Kenny, JB, it doesn't matter who it is.
yeah,
But ultimately, I just picked the best coach on the best team that I think has helped, like Shea has, make these guys look a little bit better than they might be elsewhere.
yeah. I don't really think This is another one where there's really no formula to the award at all.
It's yeah, I don't even
It's
know. I would
tough.
love to see what it is or what the people voting, what their formula is, because I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know when you do a sim on 2K, it goes to the coach with the most wins that season, and that's probably the easiest way to go about it, honestly, because anything outside of that is subjective.
And you
But
do a sim on 2K, you do that, and then Luca gets like 8 MVPs
yeah,
in a every single time.
averaging like 35, 12, and 12
Yeah,
every year. So
it's insane. But yeah, Coach of the Year, least interesting award to me, just because it could be a lot of guys, and whoever gets it, salute to them because there's been a lot of good coaching this year. That leads us into the last award, whatever this means, most improved player. Um, who do you pick for this award that's so messy and undefined right now?
my definition of this award eliminates Cade from being eligible for this award.
As it
So
should. It definitely should.
even though he's improved, he was a star prior to this. He was a
Mm-hmm.
star last year. He's improved a lot, but he should not be in the combo for this. Obviously, second year players shouldn't be in combo. So I was between two guys in the end here. I was between Dyson and then a guy I don't think is going to get as much recognition and should, Christian Brown. I think Christian Brown kind of took a similar jump to Dyson. He
Mm-hmm.
filled in the KCP role. He's been a great player this season. Dyson came from a team where he wasn't getting as much burn, came into a situation where he was much more of a option, and both of them saw huge jumps in their numbers. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up giving it to Christian Brown
Wow.
over Dyson because the way I look at this award, Christian Brown was on the Nuggets last year. Christian Brown had a lesser
Yeah.
role on the Nuggets last year. Christian Brown improved in the same team he was on to a huge extent. Dyson switched situations where he opened up as more of an option, giving him a bigger jump in stats possibility anyway.
Mm.
So for me, I went with the guy who was in the same situation, and I saw vast improvement in that situation. Rather, maybe a change of scenery was a bigger helper.
That's a very valid point. I think the biggest thing with your pick is when he was on their championship team, and it was just like you get small pops of him where it's like, ooh, that was a good couple possessions, or like, ooh, that was a good spark. But it wasn't. There was no defined role. He didn't have his place. I think he, like you said, this year really made it for himself and said, I matter here. He's been a great shooter. He helps on the defensive end, and that ultimately that's great reasoning for your pick. I went with someone else. I went with Dyson, and my reasons are a little different. Like you said, the change of scenery, but he's averaging 10 more points a game. He's only been playing 11 more minutes than last year. He's become a better shooter. Obviously, defensively, to go from a guy that's just like, I don't think anyone was considering Dyson Daniels for All NBA defense last year. He's been a good defender, but to then become, you know, the heart of the Atlanta Hawks defense that for years has struggled a little bit, and be able to help out Trae Young, who obviously is not a great defender. I think he's done a lot for them, and it's the only reason that they're really in this play-in spot. Aside from the bottom of the East being terrible, but I think without him, their defense would be in a way worse spot, a way worse spot. And the change of scenery helps, but I think he's a whole different player. Where last year, if you'd have told me this would happen, I'd have said no way. Even with him going to Atlanta, I don't think anyone was like, "Oh, Dyson, now that he's in Atlanta, we're gonna see something." And that's my kind of counter argument to yours. I don't think anyone thought the change of scenery would have meant anything near this. Had people predicted like, "Oh, him going there means this is what he's gonna become," I think I'd agree with you a little more.
Yeah, no, I mean, huge. Like, he overperformed a whole lot, and
Yeah.
nobody would have expected it. I think both guys, I would put both guys as the two most deserving guys. Ignore Cade, ignore. I think Mobley's in the odds right now. Austin Reeves is in the odds. Who another guy who improved, but I don't think like not in the same way for what I imagine this award as.
No, not at all. And I think that this is pretty obvious, but I guess we have to say it. If a guy's the top five or even lottery pick, I would say let's narrow it down. I would say top 10.
Yeah, probably around there.
like a top 10 pick, top 5 to 10 pick, and he's just progressing as anyone should progress that's 19 when they enter the NBA and now they're getting older and better and whatever, doing what they're supposed to do. That should not get you the award. It makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I don't know why they need a better criteria here.
Now,
Um,
maybe if it was like, say, Ben Simmons next year were to go back to his old
yeah,
self, he could win that. Or if D'Lo next year were to go back to like borderline All Star, sure, those guys were top picks, top two picks, but they had that lull where like we're not expecting it. If you're expected to do this, I don't think you really should win Most Improved.
yeah. I mean, Cade's entering what year? This is year 4. He's in.
Yeah, he was 21.
This should be a normal like, and
And we knew it though. We knew this when we watched Cade in high school.
it's not. We knew it when we watched Cade last year that he was going to progress.
Yeah, it was just the team was bad. But like, if you've been watching Cade since he was in high school, this is what Cade Cunningham is supposed to be, and he's not there yet. If he doesn't get better than this next year, I'd be a little bit surprised. Like that's what I expect out of Cade Cunningham. Um,
Yeah,
you look at
same
him
goes
in
for
college.
Mobley.
Yeah, same thing for Mobley. These are the type of guys where we expect them to become at least all stars, and that's what they're doing right now. So that award's broken. I think JJ Redick was it him that spoke out
Yeah, he
against it,
spoke out
kind
the
of
other day.
yeah, saying the same thing. Where like, what even is this award at this point? It's just guy who improved, and we expected it. And like we're saying, it's broken. I almost was kind of thinking like, do you think it would help if the NBA were to like release some sort of framework for how these awards should be decided?
I just don't know how they would do that. That's the only. Like, I think there needs to be some sort of set terms, but I don't think there's a possibility of set terms for it. Because, example, there is crazy examples where I would say some guys should win it if it's out of the world. Like, if Cade went from averaging 20 to magically averaging 40 a game, like, he should win most improved.
Yeah.
Like, cases like, there's going to be stuff like that where people aren't going to be, it's going to ruin it. To a sense, but like I think voters just need a better. Think there needs to be a little bit of a more focus on what it is.
Yeah.
Because even Austin Reeves example, I mean Austin Reeves improved. He went from a third option to being a third option. Uh I don't think he's jumped as much as the other names here. Brown
No.
and Dyson both jumped 10 points per game and
Yeah.
doubled their production almost everywhere else.
And their salary and their worth as a player, like they're making a lot more money now that they can do this. And I just wanted to pull up that JJ quote so I could read it. He said, "I hate that award because they haven't defined it. The spirit has been completely distorted. Just call it something like the player drafted high with a max contract who is now an all-star. Just call it that. Who is that player? Because that's what he's become." And that hit the nail on the head right there. So
yeah,
MIP is a little broken, but we both go with two different options here for two different reasons. I take Dyson and you take Christian Braun. So let's move on to the last part of the show here. Why don't you introduce this part? Because I'm excited for this. I think we're going to have very different answers.
For this, we're going to do our all NBA first and second team. And then I guess we'll throw in some honorable mentions, which you guys could either take as a third team or honorable mentions for the second. Because even defining a second team here was really tough.
Yeah.
I think this season, especially the games requirement on some guys being on the borderline of making versus missing it. KD is going to just miss it. There's a lot happened here. So for the first team, I imagine almost everyone is going to have a similar first 3-4 players.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last spot is up for grabs. And then the second team, who knows? And then the third team is a real guess for everybody going forward. So we're just going to run through our predictions here. Maybe not even predictions, maybe just how we felt the season went. And some guys that might slip in deserving it that might not get that recognition anyway.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some different answers, especially as we get down to the like borderline second, third team, things like that. I had a really hard time with these lists aside from like those four, I would say those core four guys, like you said, that everyone's going to have.
Yep.
So why don't you list off those four, and we might as well just do that. So this is our All-NBA first team for this year, the 2024-2025 season.
I think this guy's getting his fourth in a row. We like him a lot more than other people, but Tatum slips back on here.
Yep, for sure.
Pretty sure it's his fourth All NBA first team in a row now.
Hmm.
Giannis,
Yep.
Shea, and then
Mhm.
of course the other MVP battler, Jokic here.
Yep. And that's, I mean, if you don't have those four on your first team, you're wrong. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't like to say that with a lot of basketball things, but what was objectively,
I don't
you're
think there's any argument against any of them.
no.
Like you
So,
have to try and argue against it than for it at this point because they're locked in there.
yeah. So that fifth spot is where there is a lot of wiggle room here. Who is the most deserving? I'll let you go first because I know you don't have who I have. I know it.
I gave it to a guy that I don't. I just want to see get it more so. I think. I did slip Cade into this spot,
Okay.
and he was between two names that we'll talk about soon. But I just the season he's had at this point, leading them to the playoffs. They're going to be a playoff team, not a play-in team.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would have expected that. The roster's not great. His numbers are absurd at this point. Um, I just think he's probably going to get a lot of love here for it, especially because he's one of those guys where the stats, it's a lot of stats versus like similar to a Jokic. Like he puts up a lot of numbers in every category.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the two other guys I considered for this spot don't, but are on one's on a really good team, and the other, I think, might probably slips in this spot, and he would be my next name up. But we'll talk about him next, most likely. But yeah, I ended up going with Cade here. Who'd you roll with?
A guy that I don't think I don't even know if you're gonna have him on your second team, but I got LeBron in this spot. Now, probably maybe a surprising name, but let me get my reasoning. So the Lakers, I think we expected them to not be a top seed at the beginning of the season, even with AD. Obviously, they got the most shaken up at the trade deadline, completely changed their identity. They are the 3 seed in a very tough Western Conference, and the consistent piece in all of that has been um, LeBron James at 40 years old. He's putting up 25, 8, and 8, and for LeBron, that is mediocre or even bad. I don't know. 25, 8, and 8 for him. All NBA third team last year. But the biggest thing for me is that he's done everything for this Lakers team when he needs to, and to be able to do that at 40 and carry this team to a 3 seed in such a tough Western Conference. Luka, like we said, we talked about this yesterday. You texted me. Luka, as a Laker, has been not good, especially for Luka Doncic. Terrible. The efficiency's been terrible, and I
Yeah,
think LeBron's kept this team afloat where they're a top 3 seed. And like we said, it could be really easy to slip down, but LeBron's kept this team up there. So that's why I've got LeBron.
yeah, no, I mean that's this last spot. There's a lot of names in the that could probably get it. It depends how the voters go. I just there's probably maybe the whole second team could get considered for this first team actually. So
Yeah,
it's
probably.
going to be a close voting.
Yeah. So just to recap before we move to the second team, our All NBA first team we have SGA, Giannis, Jokic, Tatum, and then I have LeBron James here, and you have Cade Cunningham. So move on to the second team where I doubt that it's that similar. Let's go with your first name on the second team. Who do you got?
This was the guy I think has probably the best case for that other first team spot. Sadly, I don't. I think I could see the media giving it to him. I think Anthony Edwards somehow is this next top voting receiver here, where he either
Mm-hmm.
slips onto that first team or he's just the top guy on the second team.
Okay.
I don't think he deserves that spot, but I do think he's probably an All NBA second team player this season pretty easily, and borderline first team. So he's putting up 27, 6, and 5. Not as one of those guys who's not going to put up the numbers in those other categories as much,
Mm-hmm.
but the scoring output still leading a solid team. They're in that struggle area of the West trying to find their spots, but a team I'd kind of be scared of. And him in the playoffs, we saw it. He rises or falls at some times. Like he's either boom or bust, it appears to be. Last
Yeah.
year, we witnessed crazy scoring outputs, and then he didn't drop 20 for like 6 straight games. So I'm interested to see how he does it this year. But yeah,
And that's a good pick. I also might as well just say I had Ant on my second team for the same reasons. Talked about this on other episodes. I think his leap as a shooter and the fact that he was able to kind of step up with this team losing Cat, Julius Randle obviously being out at points throughout the season and just kind of struggling a little bit at points, being inconsistent. Ant's been able to keep this team alive. I know they got some good talent. They got Dante DiVincenzo, but he's been a shell of himself. And Ant's leap, as much as I don't like Ant, he's done it for this Timberwolves team. So I had him in my second team. I gotta say though, I did not consider him for my first team over LeBron. I just didn't. I wish I did a little bit in retrospect, but I think Ant was my lock for second team, not considered for first team. The one guy I was considering for first team was Donovan Mitchell.
he's another guy I slipped onto the second team. It was him, those three basically. I had Cade, D, Mitch, and I just think the Cade numbers separated, but that's why D Mitch being on such a winning team, producing so much. I think if they weren't as good of a team, he would have had way better numbers and would have been a first team lock, whereas he only had to put up 24 a game this season to be on the best team in the East.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So it was his numbers. I think are I don't want to say underwhelming, but he's not averaging 30 a game. Um, but he is a guy who can go get you 50 any given night. It's just a little bit similar, I'd say, to Tatum, where there's a lot of talent on this team now. He's got Garland to rely on. He's got Mobley and J.A. Ty Jerome even. Like, guys have stepped up. He doesn't need to go be that guy putting up 30 a game to keep him afloat. This
yeah.
team's good. So that was my reason. So far on the second team, we've got Donovan and Ant. I might as well just get this one out there, too. I have Cade Cunningham on my second team. He didn't make my first team. But same reasons you had him. We've expected this from Cade. I think you've been high on Cade for a while. I love tall point guards that can do everything. Um, so this was pretty easy. I hope Detroit kind of has some motion in the playoffs. Maybe I'll sneak over to a game now that I'm kind of close. But I'd love to see Detroit do something in the playoffs to kind of get back to that gritty, winning, city that they love. So
yeah, they only appear to be good when they have guys who fight. It seems I saw someone tweet that out on Twitter that they're only good when they're a fighting team. So
yeah, and they've done that this year. They're back to it, and Cade's been the reason for that. I mean, this is the guy you want to draft. You want to draft this guy with your top pick, the guy that wants to stay there, build with this city. When he wins a game, he's not pointing to anything but the name of the city. And through everything last year and all the losses, this guy stayed and made sure it got turned around. So
yeah.
Salute to Cade, All NBA second team. Why don't you move on to your third spot?
Well, as you just did the Cade thing, I will say Braun slipped in on the second team here too. We kind of just have them flip flop there.
Yeah.
Everything you said about Braun, I think is true. It's just there is somewhat of a, I guess, regression, as people would say, in Braun's numbers here compared to years past. He is 40. The thing is, I don't like when it comes to his like greatness. Him being 40, I think matters in conversations and stuff and age. But I can't give him a boost in awards and stuff for it because if I did, he would be MVP and everything doing this all at 40.
True. That's fair enough.
I have to kind of do that, and I've also he just hasn't looked good as of recent, to be honest, compared to earlier on in the season. Coming off that injury, he hasn't really looked great.
The recent injuries since then, he definitely hasn't. But I would say before that, this season, he looked phenomenal. Yeah. I'm kind of considering the whole season. It's just the fact he's been able to go play whatever position they need. Obviously, even trying to figure out, is Mark Williams coming here? We stuck with Jackson Hayes. Like, LeBron's able to kind of make sure this team stays afloat while they have holes in the boat. So
yeah, and similar to what we said about Luka, like he hasn't been good. Straight up, I think that's the case. Like he just hasn't been a good version of himself. Maybe even a net negative at times, like because the lack of defense and things.
You think that it's possible come playoffs that these two hit their stride at the same time? That's the worst possible thing for anyone going against them. These two have been bad, and they're still the 3 seed. If they hit their stride at the same time, LeBron and Luka, it could get pretty scary out west.
Yeah, it could. I don't know. I as of to this point, I guess I don't know if it's possible for Luca to hit a stride on this team like the way it's currently built with LeBron also being a primary ball. I just don't know if that's Luca's style or what fits him best for what he does.
But
Um,
Luca's great though, and greatness fits in. I mean, he's got to fit in somewhere. They got to. I think they're both too good at basketball minds to let that kind of like not click in a postseason with LeBron expiring.
no, I agree. I think had they come into the season on the same team, that I would be more kind of believing in that. Luca coming over
Sure.
midway, I think makes it a little different, and I do
Yeah.
think Luca might have like I don't think he's had the time to like fix a conditioning issue he's had for a while. Whereas now it's like not going to be fixed by playoffs, where he's a way better conditioned player. That's going to be an off season program. Braun throws him on and says, "Do it or leave," type of thing.
Yeah, type of thing. I guess so. I mean, that's fair enough. But I
But
don't
yeah,
know which
Braun
we got.
second team for
You know,
sure.
yeah, Bronze second team. So we got one spot left.
Two,
Um,
two, two,
two
two.
spots left. I don't know if I don't, I wouldn't. I have no idea if you'd have either of these guys. Let's go with yours first.
I think you're gonna have one of these guys. Steph Curry. I did throw on the second team here.
Okay, I do have Steph, and I honestly I did not think you were gonna have Steph at all the way you talk about this man.
No, I talk about him because he's regressed as a player also, but he's old. Like they've both taken regressions. That doesn't change that they're still great players.
I would agree, but the thing with Steph, I don't know if it's as much regression as it is that I think he's still the same guy he was. I just think that there's not enough resources on his team before Jimmy, where when he's getting chased around every screen by multiple guys, it's just easy for him to catch it and beat a triple team. Like, is it regressed or is it that like he's not?
But see, I think it's because I always thought, like, I've always seen Steph as the guy who does beat those when he was in his prime. Like, he was the guy who that didn't matter.
But I think he had a little bit more help scoring wise, where they've had Andrew Wiggins as their second option before Jimmy, and it was like there really was nobody on this team that had more young guys than they've ever had,
Yeah,
where it was a little bit more pressure. But this month so far in April, he's played 3 games. Steph Curry's averaging 41 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and he's shooting 50% from three, 51% from the field through those games.
yeah,
He's
no,
hit
he's gotten hot.
33 threes in the last 3 games.
He has gotten hot as of these I guess the past month and a half, maybe up to now. Even with that little stint of missing games for the injury he had.
Against 3 good teams, mind you, Memphis, the Lakers, and Denver. Those are 3 tough teams in the West that they could very easily see in the playoffs. Um, Steph Curry stepped up and delivered against those teams, and April Steph is here. So that's our lock for the second team. I think that was pretty easy for me. I wasn't going to put him any lower. Um,
No, I don't think. Just some of the other names in consideration. I think they just had him and Braun both way better cases to be
mhm.
above than below.
Yeah, for sure. So we got one spot left. Who do you have?
Um, the Jersey native, I think you might have him too, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Anthony Towns.
I hinted at that when I texted you yesterday. I was like, he's not even the best player on his team when you said something about Brunson.
Well, see if Brunson played more games. I think what Brunson did this season would have been deserving of a spot up here. He took a backseat role at times to let them kind of gel together and was still able to take over for the most part whenever needed pre-injury.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I still see Cat have a lot of games that he just I feel like is mentally checked out or just not there. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think that's been a little bit of the theme with his career is he gets mentally checked out, or it's just like I don't want to use the word soft because I feel like that's a disrespectful word. But I just feel I guess I have to use it for lack of a better word. Like he's really soft, where he might get upset and he's in his head and he's not playing the basketball he needed to play, and that's been happening in the playoffs where he starts fouling every 2 seconds. Is that the Knicks cannot afford that.
No, especially if they're going to play them 40 minutes a game. So
And I mean, Mitchell Robinson being back helps, but in the playoffs, having Cat and being able to space the floor with five guys that can shoot, that makes all the difference. So Cat is very deserving. Obviously, we love him, Jersey guy. I used to see that he would practice at my school all the time in college. Obviously, the court was named after his mom. So connection to Cat. We love to see Jersey guys do well.
Yeah.
Now we move on to, I guess, our third team, but let's recap our second team. Read yours off real quick.
My All NBA second team this season: Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Edwards, and Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay. And my All NBA second team this year, I have Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, and Karl Anthony Towns. So we can move on to what I think we should just call our third team. I mean,
We
this is
can, but I have a lot of guys, honestly, here that I was just in consideration with.
pick your top five, and we're gonna roll with our third teams, I guess.
All right. Who's the
So
first guy that missed your cut here?
on the second team,
Yeah.
Evan Mobley.
Okay.
Probably a little bit of an unexpected answer, but the same way I made his case for Depoy, I think he's just been such an important part of this Cavs team. He's taken such a leap offensively, not just as numbers wise, but his willingness to shoot, put the ball on the floor. I think that's what hurt them in the playoffs last year was he couldn't help them stretch the floor, and that got exposed. So him taking that leap offensively and playing at a Depoy level, I mean, that's All NBA second team to me on one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, no, that's valid. He did have a great season. My first guy that didn't make the cut was a guy I almost considered on the second team over Cat. Jaren Jackson here. I just think that season he's had been the consistent piece on the Grizzlies, and now without a coach, he's the most consistent thing on the Grizzlies.
Yeah, for sure. And we said that before with the Depoy. Like him and Mobley are very similar players. I think they do similar things for their teams. And Jaren Jackson's numbers a little worse because of those rebounds. Like Mobley's just been a better playmaker.
Yeah, but Jaren's just not a good rebounder. I don't know how
He's
you're
not at all, and I think that's what really hurts
11 and can't.
Yeah, it's one thing. I just think it hurts their Grizzlies team. You're relying on a rookie to pull down every rebound at that point. Um, so that is a big separator for me. You're supposed to be the big. I hate bigs that can't rebound. So that hurts them for me. Who else do you have in this third team? Because I didn't have Jaren Jackson Jr. in mine at all. So
Devin Booker.
He's not mine at all.
A consistent thing on a bad team, also a team that underperformed. D-Book's numbers on the season are actually a lot better than I thought they were before I was even making this list.
What are we at for him?
Let me pull it up here, but I think he's in the 26 point per game area. Yep, 26, 7 and 1 on 46. Bad 3-point shooter this season, 34%, but 90% from the line. Still
Okay.
26, 7 and 4. The progression as a playmaker keeps kind of going up when he has to take on different roles, and that's cool to see as a guy who was only envisioned as a great scorer in his early days of his career.
Yeah. I think his playmaking, taking that leap, is a big thing for Book. I think he'll live in that 25 to 30 point per game range for some years. He is such a talented scorer, 3-level guy. The thing for me is the Suns have been so bad this year. Like,
Yeah.
that's what really hurts it for me. And the guy I picked has been in the opposite situation. He's been on a good team here. I picked Şengün as my All NBA third guy because the Rockets are the 2 seed. Another do-it-all type of guy, a great playmaker at the 5. He's become a better rebounder and a bit more of a body. Took a little bit of a dip in efficiency, but I think he helps hold this Rockets team together that lacks playmakers and just some maturity in terms of the way they play basketball. I think he grounds them a little bit. He's a good basketball mind, and he's a big reason they're the 2 seed.
Yeah, no. I don't. He's a guy I still have a lot of question marks about. I did coming into the season. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's answered those questions I had yet.
Shooting being one, defense being
Shooting and
one.
defense still like he's great at every aspect of the game outside of those two.
Right.
But I think for him to take that next leap, he still needs to show something in one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still what I'm waiting to see. So I do not have him on mine.
And let
Um,
me tell you, Book is a good case, but team success is the separator there for me.
yeah,
And I
I
think it
agree.
matters in all NBA.
I think team success does play a role in a lot of it. I think at times, I think down here, I don't think voters, I don't know, it's weird. Voters don't really care as much as they value it in the top half. For some reason, they start throwing names in down here.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. And I thought that too. I was like, can I just say whoever at this point? Like,
I'm just a big Devin Booker guy. His
yeah, it's
game
fair
is
enough.
so, he's maybe one of the most, I'm not saying this, visually appealing players I've, like in terms of basketball. His game is so
You
smooth
just
and
like
clean.
seeing him play. You just like
Yeah,
that.
like it's just clean. Everything about his game it just looks smooth.
So his aura resonates well with you.
Let's not, yeah, we still need to give out the most aura award, but
That is not an award. You just want to give Shea something else.
um, I slipped in a name here based on team success. Usually the best team has two guys make it, so J Dub makes my third team, I guess in this case.
He
And
made mine as well. So
I think
go
what he
ahead.
does, what he did for the team defensive wise all season,
Mm-hmm.
I think he also slips on a defensive team because of it. Um, he took a big jump. I think he got 22 a game. 21 and a half a game.
Yeah, 21, I think.
21 5 and 5. That's with a guy who's going to be probably on an all defensive team.
Yeah.
Like that's great. And he's on the best team in the league.
And he's been huge for them. He's been their clear, I guess, second option, really. I think in the point where the part of the season where they didn't have Hartenstein and they didn't have Chet, J Dub was playing the five at points, and he was able to do it. And obviously, they didn't suffer any real losing streaks or anything like that. So
No.
for him to be able to plug in maybe at the two or maybe at the five, that's a valuable guy who's going to go play elite defense, 1 through 5, basically. So
Yeah.
no problems with him. Obviously, I had him too, and like you said, the best team usually has two guys, and that I don't say it was a huge reason why, but that was in my head. I was like, well, the Thunder probably need two guys. That's just how it goes. So I wanted to point out that thought existed in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Also would like to go back. I do have Mobley on the third team here.
Hmm.
He got a spot. He was a little lower in consideration just because of all that. Like he's on a great team. He doesn't need to do as much currently in terms of offensive production. And I
Mm-hmm.
think at times it's hard to find a spot on here if you don't have the numbers in terms
Right.
like the crazy output of numbers. So he was a little lower, not really in consideration for that second team, but still in consideration for he's gonna be most likely in the borderline edge of voting here.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
that's fair enough. I get the numbers argument with him. I just happen to watch the Cavs a lot this season, and I just feel like he always stood out. If you're a gambler, Evan Mobley 15 plus was like lock of the year. You can put that in any night, and not that that factored into my voting, but just a reliable guy, and
Ejed.
he was a little higher up than me. Um, so there's two guys left for me. The first one, I don't think you have either of these guys, but the first one has played really well. Almost, I would say, the same argument as Curry and LeBron on a lesser level. That's James Harden. Um, Not a guy I would have expected to be on this list, especially just his stint in Philly. I think really hurt uh, his image in my head. But on this Clippers team this year, he's been a huge reason that they're even, staying afloat. They didn't have Kawhi for, as usual, a good chunk of the season. But Harden stepped up big. Do you have him in yours?
Nope. Well, if we're doing just the top five, then I would throw up here. No, he was in the considerations though.
Yeah, I mean, at the least he should be for sure. He just had a great season. I feel like it was the first time in a while where I watched Harden and I saw the old versions of him pop up, where he was getting to the basket, he was inviting contact. He was getting to his step back without any hesitation. It was smooth. It didn't look like that clunky older version of Harden I feel like we've seen these past 2 3 years. So that was a big reason for me. And like I said, this Clippers team could do damage in the playoffs if he's able to turn that switch back on.
Yeah, no, he had a great season. We both have one name left here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go first because I technically have two names left here. This is kind of a what if scenario. um, if Jalen Brunson plays for the next 5 games and hits the 65 game minimum, I think he makes it. He's
Okay.
averaging 26, 7.5. The 7.5 assists from him is kind of huge. That's a huge jump from where he
Mm-hmm.
was. Scoring wise, he's down from last year, but I think that's taken that backseat to letting the team gel a little bit. They have a lot of guys who were just trying to fit in and find their roles together still, where OG, McCall, Cat could all have their nights. And
True.
he needs to be the guy. He needs to be the point guard to kind of control what's happening if that's like the case. If they're having their night, he needs to be the one to make sure that they're getting the ball, and he's kind of taking a backseat.
Yeah,
So
that's fair enough. And the Knicks obviously team success helps there. Brunson's a guy you know you're going to be able to rely on in the playoffs too. Um, just a steady, efficient point guard that I think can be that playmaker. He can go get 50. And him and Cat both probably deserve to be on there as well. That was not who I had. I had a guard, though, just not Jalen Brunson. I have Trey Young.
that's the what if for me. If Brunson doesn't play for these 5, I think Trae Young slots in.
And Trey Young's a guy that's been disrespected for years at this point. Obviously, there's some problems with his efficiency as of these past 2 3 years. So he's only at 40% from the field this year. But arguably, I don't know if it's something you can debate at this point. He's one of the best playmakers in NBA history.
Yeah,
Averages 9.8 assists in his career so far. His rookie year being the only time he averaged under 9. Um, that's what does it for me. He's such a cerebral player where I don't know what's going to happen next with him. When he comes off that screen, there's 2,000 options, and he's going to make the right choice every time.
yeah, no. This is kind of a guy we've both been vocal against or like for in past. Like
Mm-hmm.
different parts of his game just aren't great. The defense being probably the key one,
Yeah.
efficiency being one. But he, like you said, still probably one of the best playmakers we're gonna see in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
What he does, I think he's just. I don't. He carries that team to more than I think they should accomplish. I
Yeah.
don't say he. I wouldn't say he plays winning basketball in what my head is. I think he is putting up more numbers than winning basketball, but in terms of just he overachieves the team, so that gets them farther than they should be. The Hawks are going to be a chance at the playoffs with a play-in spot, and
Mm-hmm.
that's largely because of him, especially
Yeah.
since other guys on the team don't really fill the offensive roles as much as he does.
I want to say I think they'd have been better had Jalen Johnson not got hurt.
Yeah,
I think he's a huge part of that team, and I think if they can develop their young talent in Shea and in Jalen Johnson, they have the potential. Now they've got a guy like Karis LeVert too. That's just a vet that can score. I think it's a matter of them getting a solid big. I think that really unlocks this team. More of a modern big could do a lot for this squad, and I
not
think that's
Clint
what they've
Capella.
been missing. Yeah, you hook someone up with Trey Young that maybe is more athletic and can pop a little bit more. I think it really unlocks their offense. So that could happen for them. I believe in the Hawks' young core a lot, and Trey Young deserves that last spot. So we are. This is a long episode here, so we should probably get it wrapped up a little bit. I didn't realize we're time. Um, but I think it's been great. This has been a great season. The amount of talent in the NBA in 2025 is ridiculous. And it's so much fun to watch. Like I said, there's been a lot more defense this year, in my opinion, and I think these playoffs are shaping up to be really entertaining. So I enjoyed this a lot. How'd you feel about the season a little bit and just the awards?
Um, I like this season. It was good. In the past, we've seen kind of different styles of basketball than versus this season. I think defense, like we talked about, kind of took a step up this season, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a big piece to this. But
Who's this guy?
uh, no, lay down. Defense, huge part of why I think this season was better. I think some guys really took jumps we didn't expect them to do. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas we also knew what the top guys were going to do when it came to MVP. Some
Mm-hmm.
injuries sold awards and how we thought it would go. Wemby, we thought he would be way more involved in these, but because of the game's requirement now and the injury, he's not having that. Um,
There's a bunch of guys. I feel like that 65 game really makes this, I would say, a little easier because it eliminates a lot of guys that talent wise should be in this conversation, and even playing 50 something games probably would be.
yeah.
Um, so that's interesting when considering this all. But I love doing it, and I was very off for my predictions. I'll share that on some social media channel. Um, I will share them. I was very off. I hope to see a Charlotte Hornet on here one day. I was hoping LaMelo would be here, and I really thought with the momentum at the beginning he would, but this will be the last year I'm not saying a Hornet in one of these awards, and you can mark me down for that. Maybe.
I don't know if you want to co-sign that right
Yeah,
now.
I won't say that. There will be a Hornet within the next 10 years.
That's a reasonable number, actually.
All right, the next 10 years, I think there'll be a Hornet on here, but I love doing it. I think it was a great episode. We've got what, like a week and a half left in the season? two
I think
weeks.
next Sunday is the last
Yeah.
day.
So,
There's every game is then, so I guess. Well, if we know the seeding, our next episode, this might be the last episode about the regular season
probably we'll do
because
a
we'll have a
playoff.
playoff prediction next week, most likely for you guys about what we think the matchups are going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, great regular season. We witnessed a lot, and
I don't even want to get into the Hornets because we're really late. But I hope this is the last year I feel like this, and I hope I can care about the Hornets at this point in the season. At some point, I haven't cared about them past game 40 in years, so
yeah, no,
I just wanted to throw that in there. But playoff time, these episodes are going to get a little bit longer probably because I feel like we want to really dive deep. Playoffs are so fun to talk about because it's not just a game; it's like an event. For the playoffs, it's like a show for each series more than it is just one episode. So,
and
I,
for us, I know that's our favorite brand of basketball. Like
I love
it's
doing
like a
that.
chess match of basketball, and
Yeah,
that's why for us it's definitely way more like we can dive deeper in on things like that, defensive adjustments teams are making and game plan changes. It's just so I don't know, it's
this
way
will
more interesting than regular season basketball.
it'll be less debate like talk show ish, I think, and more like mind the game type thing where we're talking X's and O's and schemes a little bit more rather than just trending topics. So
Yeah,
I'm excited for that. That about wraps it up for episode 9, technically. So we got episode 10 next week. I can't believe it's been 10 episodes, but it's been a ride. I'm having a good time. Make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We are posting a lot on there. All of these awards will be turned into graphics on all of our social media pages, so make sure to check that out. So that's it for episode 9. Tiernan, why don't you close this out? And we'll be
yeah.
ready for next week.
Check
Playoff
out the
time.
link tree, follow us everywhere, and peace out, guys.
See ya.